Hello. Welcome back, my nerds. I think I'm live. Yep. All right. Welcome back. If you're new, I'm working on the MySpace top 8 nostalgic recreation section for your GitHub profile. And I've made a lot of progress already. What I would like to do is, in this stream, do research on how to actually turn this into an action. If you're going to call my action, there's YAML involved. I don't know if I need to use some JavaScript to call PowerShell to call my script that I've been making the last 3 streams, but that's what we'll figure out today. I think most of the script is actually in place because it, can find the section, it can generate the code for the section. We can export that. There's code to, commit it back up to the repository once it has made a change, if you swap your top 8 or something like that. But I haven't gotten to that yet. First, I need to figure out how to pass information from the action, from your action in your repository to my action, and then eventually to the PowerShell script. So let's research and just hop right into it. So I have no idea what GitHub's YAML action standard is. How to set up workflows and create an action. I assume, this isn't GitHub's documentation. I assume GitHub has their own documentation on how to create a YAML. Let's try this. Okay, so here are some default values that we need. Name, author, description. So the only reason I even know about this action.yaml is I've looked at other YAML examples. So for example, I'm using a blog post action. So blog post workflow.yaml has, that's the name of my action in my repository. And in this action, I'm invoking someone, in this workflow, I should say, I'm invoking an action that exists somewhere else, which is just username, repository. So I've just sort of gone to these, and I've noticed he's got an action.yaml file. And in here, it looks like this is where you create your inputs and like parameters and stuff. I only have a few that I need right now. What the path to the README and a path to the user's text file. But if I can figure out how to, in the action, just have someone, like path or README file here, and they list a path to their README. And then another one is, users or, top 8, and then they can just list 8 users here. Then I don't even need a separate text file. But I didn't know how to implement that because I don't know if I can pass an array from the action to my PowerShell. If I can, I don't need to accept a path to a user.txt file because it's just provided by the action. I did this for testing, but today's the day we figure out how things look, what we need, and then we'll obviously have to do some restructuring of all this fluff. So I've been looking at these as examples, and it looks like inputs is like parameters. So I will probably need to keep this because I will need to, if I make a change, obviously I have to commit that change back up to the repository. I assume this is a variable created by the checkout action. And so this creates some sort of environment variable in this container, this Ubuntu container. And this guy's just leveraging that. He knows he's getting this from the pipeline. So first, let's make this action.yaml and just slowly build out some of this stuff. So let's come here, action.yaml. And it looks like we need, it looks like we need to start with name, author, description. Let's call this my top 8. Oops. Workflow. I am the author. Create a I may need to wonder how you escape in YAML. I want to escape these single quotes. I need a single one here. Okay, create a MySpace top 8. Your for GitHub users. That does not need to be capitalized. Okay, so I've got, why doesn't it like this? Oh, it already knows I'm missing some stuff, which is fine. We'll get to that later. So there's basically some metadata. What's your input? And then at the bottom, what is it actually doing? So I have to tell it I'm running, some PowerShell script, and there's some other fancy stuff. So it's yelling about not having a runs yet. So I guess we can add that real quick. Inputs, so I don't have any inputs yet. I'm assuming this will be PWSH. Yeah, see, this is what I'm worried about. I may have to... I'm not sure what the difference is. I may have to create like a JavaScript file that its only job is to call PowerShell. Let's just use composite for now. I'm not really sure. This is going to be, what's my file? Start. Monitor.ps1. Well, what's this yelling about? Missing steps. I'm confused. There are no steps. Okay, we'll figure this out. I'm going to keep this as is in inputs because I think this comes from the checkout action. I'm also going to want, I guess here is where I would put users list. Am I tabbing wrong? I think it's just one tab. YAML is very picky about your spacing. Yeah. Or the white space. That's how it figures out what's nested under what. Kind of like Python. Well, it's exactly like Python. Okay, users list. Description. List your magical top 8 GitHub users. Required is true. And I guess default will just be empty. This, if it's required, there is no default. And that, okay, it looks like that's what he's doing here too. This is required. It defaults to empty. Perfect. Comma separated. Okay, so this can, it looks like this can take multiple stuffs. So I'm going to say comma separated list of your magical top 8 users. It's required. Let's move that up. Users list. And oh, one other thing that I was thinking about in my code last time, I hard coded in the username so that it could show up. Let me preview. So that it could show up here. But then I thought the blog post doesn't have a heading. Its whole purpose is to fill these links. I can make whatever heading I want. This is outside of the scope of the action down here. Like this is hard coded in. I made the heading. So I think that's a good idea for this action as well. I shouldn't have to like make that heading myself. What did I do? Open preview. I won't make this myself. I'll literally make the 2x4 box of 8. They can put whatever heading they want. So I don't have to worry about automatically figuring out, the username of the person calling this. They don't have to provide it. So I can scratch all of this out. I can just get rid of it. I don't need this. And then I can come to this function and just get rid of GitHub username. And then I get rid of this whole line here. Because I'm just making, here's the comment, metadata on the table, and then make the table. No heading. That I'll let someone else, let that person come up with what they want to title it as. Because maybe this is top 8 for, maybe top 8 donors or top 8 whatever. It doesn't just have to be friends list. They can title this whatever top 8 they want. So I'm going to leave that out. I think that's better. It's more flexible for the person using the action. And it's easier for me because I don't have to figure out more stuff. So that's good. Okay, let's come back here. So I want them to list the users. I think it's easiest just to do it in the action itself. So I will try to figure out how that works. Okay. Oh, I don't need this. Okay, back to our documentation. Let's go to runs, steps. Yeah, there's all kinds of built-in variables. I got to figure these out instead of trying to calculate these myself. So this is where I would put, I want to run my PowerShell script and the shell is PWSH. So this is exactly what I want. I just don't know exactly what they mean by composite, but it looks like that's what I'm going to need to use. So shell is going to be, I wonder if they list them here. Yep, there it is, PWSH for the new PowerShell. You can see here, this I'm assuming is Windows PowerShell. So up to version 5.1 and change, which is Windows only. PWSH is the acronym for the cross-platform PowerShell that can be installed on any operating system. So that's the one I want to use. That way, it doesn't matter what container they pick. They can run this in a Windows container or whatever, and PowerShell will work. So what did they have? They had GitHub Action path. That's exactly what I want. That's pretty cool. Did they wrap that in quotes? Nope. And then start my top 8 monitor, PS1. I think if we come here, let's look at these inputs real quick. Come up to inputs. Okay, here's an example. So there's two inputs here. Num of octocats, octocat eye color. When you specify an input in an action in a workflow file, use a default input value, GitHub creates an environment variable with input underscore variable name. So that's in the environment. I don't have to pass it as a parameter. The environment variable created converts input names to uppercase letters and replaces spaces with underscore. Well, I'm not going to have any spaces in my names anyway. So it would turn this into a PowerShell environment variable that looks like this. So that means I don't have to have these parameters. Yeah, let me comment this out quick instead of getting rid of it. So in my begin, so the way to access environment variables with PowerShell is you start with this env colon syntax, and then these are all the environment variables. A lot of them are default. Just when PowerShell loads, it loads a ton of variables. But then you can do this with modules. If you import a module, that module may create an environment variable. Like it looks like VS Code is doing this. VS Code has made some environment variables. There's paths, all kinds of stuff. So it looks like there would be an environment variable called input underscore, what am I calling these? GitHub token. Users list. That's the one that I want to reference. So it would be users list because gosh, it's just here. Here we go. Let's put these side by side. I'm getting confused. Let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of that. So users underscore list, it says it adds this to the beginning, makes the rest capital. So instead of having a parameter, I know the action won't run unless this is provided. And whatever they provide, I can just reference this. So where is user's path referenced? I would just call this users equals input users list. Let's come here and change this to users. They will supply their 8 users in the action. And that gets thrown in right here. Yeah. So I pass the users to this function, which I probably don't even need to do, honestly. I could probably just reference it here anyway, but I don't want to change too much. Once it's done, then we can do some cleanup, make things look a little cleaner. Users list. I'll eventually have to do a git commit. So let's just, so I don't forget about this. There will also be input GitHub token. And this will be a token to the GitHub Action figures out who you are, writes to commit and pull from your repository if it's private or whatever. Basically, I want to use this token. If I make changes, I update the profile README that I cloned. And because I have a token from that user, this GitHub Action has rights to push code to the repository. I assume. Again, it's nice to have this blog post example to look at. Otherwise, I'd be kind of clueless just looking at this stuff. So he's capturing this. I see this defined nowhere else. But because you have to run the actions checkout in order to use the action, like that's the only way it works, I think he's assuming Well, he's assuming that you run the checkout in the first place. And this I'll have to research this action. What other environment variables does this produce? Yeah, let's look at that quick. Oops. Okay, so here's the checkout action that everyone is using. Create a local branch. Okay. So this action uses a GitHub workspace, but what does it output? No, I'm just checking out one repo. Okay, maybe there's some documentation up here. Oh, they've got a lot of stuff. Never mind. Well, actually, what's this action calls index.json, which is somewhere here, right? Here you are. I bet this looks ugly, but we'll see. My goodness. Oh, it is huge. Holy moly. I'm not going to learn much from this. Get me out of here. Take me back. No, I don't care. Take me back. Okay. Is there any documentation? This is documentation on a new version. All right, none of this is going to help. I don't think this is what I want. To set custom environment variables, you need to specify the variables in the workflow file. Oh, so this is where they create. Okay. Wrong one. Let me come to this action.yaml. I'm not seeing any environment stuff here. Not sure exactly how this works. But I think just the fact that you're running an action comes with all these defaults. So the owner and repository name. Perfect. This is something that the action creates for me. So I could use this built-in variable if I wanted to put like a title on the top 8 like I was doing. Like who the heck ran this? Slap on Matthew J. DeGarmo's top 8 on there. There's these built-in parameters. So I'm wondering if I can use any of these to help me out. GitHub workspace. This is the path in the container that it checks out to. GitHub Action. Okay, so these are right next to each other. What I mean is, it checks out the repository from the checkout workflow item here. So it checks out Matthew J. DeGarmo. That's my repository name for my profile, right? And then when you run this action is looking at my README that was checked out. And it has an input that is right here. So this is exactly what I need as well. Oops. Let me copy all that. I don't need to calculate where the README is. It looks like when I run this action, it throws me right in to that context. Like this action runs inside of the profile README. So I will have a this path. This now becomes environment, what do we call it? Input README path. Copy all this. And then profile content everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Once we calculate a new profile content string, which is the... No, it'd be assembled profile. If we figure out that there's a change that needs to be made, that we need to push up a commit, then I would overwrite this file, the input README path, which is already pointing to your profile's README. So can I reveal in File Explorer? So if I clone my profile repository right off the bat, you have to have a README file. And so the action clones this repository and it runs the action in this context right here. So that's why I'm doing the ./README here. That's the path, because when it runs my action, it's running it as if I were right here, which is perfect. This is the README I want to overwrite and edit, check, all those things. So that's good. Let me see what else is this person using for defaults. I don't need that. Filter comment. See, this is specific blog stuff, which is great. I don't need it. Don't need that. Nope, no headers, tags. Don't care. Oh, I could use this. Yeah, I'm going to steal some of these others. Not steal, but commit message used while committing to the repo. Updated. My top 8. There we go. Okay, there were some other good ones here. Committer username. I guess I could have a default. Oops. Username while committing to the repo. Required false. Committer email. Wouldn't I want this to be the information of the person? No. I'd want it to know that the bot did this. So I'll just call this. I don't know if this email has to be valid or not. My top 8 postbot at example.com. There we go. Shameless plug. Okay, required false. Output only. I don't have any outputs. Yeah, I don't have any outputs. Okay. So I've got my run step here. This is good that I know that this is calculated already. I've got a GitHub token. Let me shrink this just a little bit. Commit message. Username, email. I may need another helper function here for no, I wonder if you commit with a GitHub token, if it automatically knows the username in the email. Git clone username token. Git push. Okay, you just have to structure the URL properly. But will that include the username in the commit? Because there's no email address. I may have to, so the reason I'm starting this function, commit, whoops, what did I just do? Commit git repo. So basically down here, once I do all my calculations, I can compare these. If they're different, meaning the action is actually going to be posting something new, then, run this, commit it to the repository. And in here, I will have to do some of this, set the local repository username to what's provided, set it to the email address. I already have the token, commit a message, and post it up. And instead of doing all that ugly fluff down here, just wrap it in a function. I don't need any parameters. Oops. It's a process here. I don't even need to list these. I just listed them for my brain. So I'm going to have I'm going to have to git add, whoops, git commit, and then in quotes, I have a default commit message here. So I can reference that by doing input. No. Timeout. Here we go. I need to set the name of the person and okay. Another set of quotes. You need to set the name and the email address in the repository configuration. And then in my git push, that's where I'll provide the token. But that doesn't actually configure, who's making the commit. Give me some metadata on this person. So I need to set that ahead of time. Git, that'll make sense later if you're not understanding the git stuff. I'll explain it once my brain figures this out. Okay, username. Committer. Username. Let me just clone this. Email. This will be... Oh, I need input here first. I'll show an example of this. So I have an action. I do this manually somewhere else. This isn't an action. It's it's a workflow, but it's not an actual action that other people can invoke. But in the GitHub Actions, I manually have an action set up. So I check out and then I say run some PowerShell. And in this PowerShell script, I'm doing the same thing. I have to set my username and my email in a commit message, and then I push. So let me show you an example of that. I technically could turn this into an action, but it's just like so specific to me that I haven't. But yeah, down here. So I'm specifying before I commit anything, here's the name of the person. Here's the email address to slap onto the commit. Do the commit and then push. But I don't need to provide a token here. I think I can just push like this. I won't need to form the token and everything. I think checkout must bring all that down. The checkout action that happens before all this. So if I come to my workflows, my downloads action, I don't think this works. I just haven't deleted it. So I run a checkout, and then in here, I can just do a git push. I don't actually have to include the token provided by this. It must just work somehow. So I can just do git add, git commit, and a git. I can't remember. Let me leave this off. I needed to add the quiet to mine, like I explained before, so it would actually commit, push the code up to GitHub, but somehow the output looked like an error to the GitHub action. So even though it would update and do exactly what I wanted it to, it showed that the workflow failed. And so I just, since I knew it worked every single time, like latest PowerShell gallery badge up here. So these are all green, but before they used to be red. Let me keep going. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to. These used to fail, show failed, even though they actually updated my PowerShell gallery downloads badge. Oh, this runs every hour. There's no way I'm going to catch up to it. But this badge basically updates that action updates this number. It's monitoring PowerShell gallery for my 2 PowerShell modules that are in the gallery. And every hour, if there's a new downloads, it just updates that number on my profile automatically. So I have a live reading of, yeah, you can see here. So at this time, there was 1 download in that hour. So I have this custom git commit message. Went from 314 to 315. It updates the badge. Here went from 315 to 16. So that's what that action is. It just keeps it up to date all the time. So once I have 1 million downloads and I'm famous, it's just up to date. So what now? I think we're done with this. This will actually do the commit message and push. I think what I need now, let me save this YAML file. Oops. Save. I can generate the new profile from a README. Now I just need to prove that comparing it to the original works. I need that YAML file back open. There we go. Okay. Because I still need to run this script and test stuff, but I can't reference this yet because I'm not actually calling it from an action. So I will need to add a bunch of this stuff manually. Users list equals. Don't I still have? I think I have these users. Okay, let me wrap that in quotes, comma. Okay, so VS Code is cool. If I hold down, I think it's Control. Nope, it's Alt. If I hold down Alt and click, it's gonna like duplicate my cursor. So I'm putting it at the end of every line. I want a single quote, a comma, go to the beginning of this line, add another single quote. And I just have to delete this extra comma at the end, but that's a cool way of editing a bunch of stuff all at once. So now I've got my list of 8 users. Yeah, and it is an array. Wait. Ooh, what world? What is my brain doing? I just like having these lined up. Yeah, so holding Alt and clicking will create multiple cursors all over the place. If you want to get gross, you can even, I think if I hold down the scroll bar on my mouse and go to like highlight, it also does it, but that's not very accurate. Whoops. But yeah, so if I wanted to, I don't know, add something at the end of all these equals, I'm holding Alt on my keyboard and I click at the end of the equals. And then all those cursors are live at the same time. So cool trick when you need it. In, again, specifically to VS Code, Visual Studio Code. I think you could probably change that hotkey if you wanted to, but there's so many hotkeys for VS Code, you'd run into a conflict pretty quickly. So just leave the defaults, memorize those. Okay, so I've got my list of users. Again, I'm manually providing this because I don't have this set up as an action yet. It would be provided from here, but I'm just providing it manually here. And this is used in a couple spots. Okay, so I also need to define the README path. This is also going to be and here equals again, I'm just going to manually provide this because when I call this script, the README is inside this folder right here. Normally it would be provided here, but anyway, so I'm providing that, and I think that's it. The other stuff is Git stuff, and I'm not running that yet for this. The reason I need this is because I need to make sure that, again, it provides all this code properly. Then I'll go and edit the README so that it can regenerate this and do a compare. I need to prove that I can compare and say, yep, these READMEs are not the same. Or at least this section, specifically the section, is not the same. I think that's current section. So I'm already calculating current section. I would just need to compare current section to this. Assemble profile. I guess let me just make sure that this still works. And I don't need any parameters because it's all defined inside. Very cool. Let me confirm. Users list. Where's that at? Line 46. Oh, okay. So it's being provided as users. So I don't even need. I want to change all occurrences of users list to just say users, because I'm providing the users as a parameter. Before I was providing the path to the users as a parameter. So I had this line that says, oh, I have a path. I need to read that file. But now I'm providing them as is, as an array. So now I can just reference that parameter. Okay, cool. Let's run this again. My top 8. Ooh, we're not looping anything. Okay, so some other stuff broke. Users.count. I'm not getting that error. Users I. Yeah, it's like I'm not looping through this at all. So let me throw this down here. Oh, I thought I'm telling this that this is an array. Do I not need that? I'm confused. It should import this. It's importing it as one item, which is wrong. Will this work if I tell it it's an array ahead of time? That doesn't make sense, but I know a workaround, so what I can do is, it looks like they all come through here as one, but now I can say users equals users dot split, and so it'll split on the space like you saw earlier. Now I have an array of individual items. This is just a quirk. Oops, I want to save this, rerun it, and I should have my section, my full section. There it is. Weird. That just shows me the assembled section. Okay, so the way to make some of this code change is to reorder some of these folks. So let's move you up, you down, there. Then the code here is going to be different because they're out of order, a different order. again, that would constitute as a difference. I would want to write that change up if they swap the number, swap the order of the people around. So now I want to compare. I don't need this anymore for now. I want to compare. Let me write this to a variable instead. I'm going to say new section. I should say generated. I can do that, and now I can compare I don't need either of these. Okay, there PowerShell comes with a compare object function. Reference object, I will say the current section, what exists out there right now, which was the old order. And the difference object is going to be the this will be the generated, but a difference already is this current section does not include these. But generated section will, right? Start, well, maybe not. Let me just run this compare and run this and see what explodes. Okay. Let me put this back. I'm going to put this back to the order that it was in. So we had, oops. We had you up here. Tyler was up here. And it's still showing me something. Okay, current section does include. It does include that. So let me regenerate this. Oh. Whoops. I'll have this function defined down below. So now I should have. I'll have to recopy this. It's kind of hard to see. Let me make this much bigger. Okay. There's the generated. There's the current. So I want to be able to compare these. Where's that compare object line? This like showed me both for some reason. Well, it's not telling me if they're the same or not. My top 8 list start. My top 8 list start. They should all be equal. I don't know what that means. What else do we have on compare object? It's like it's saying this top line is different. It's not. It's exactly the same. Yeah, they're both highlighted. Something's going wrong with the compare. I wonder if I swap these around. Compare. The reference is generated. You guys see anything different? Oh, there is a difference. This line. Oh, I took that out. Okay, it's been correct this whole time. I'm a doofus. Okay, I need to go. I want them to be the same so I can make sure that the compare doesn't fail. It's been showing me results the whole time because there are differences. So I removed this line showing the table heading. There we go. Okay, now I should be able to rerun just the script because the script is outputting. And right now they should be the exact same. Let me rerun all this fluff. Okay. Yeah, something's still different up here. I'll have to figure this out. We've made a bunch of progress. I'm gonna have to end this real quick. So we've got our YAML file, you know, just from looking at other people's stuff. That's a great way to learn. Yeah. I'm not able to test that this stuff works until it's in an action, and I can't put it in an action until everything else is working. But this is a huge leap forward. It looks like this should work. And I may not even need this GitHub token because I'm not using it. The person in the blog must have done some other complicated stuff for the blog post action that he did use this. I should say they. I have no idea. Whoever you are, Mr. Blog Man. Or a woman. So I don't know if I even need this yet because currently I'm not using it in my code. But okay, that's that. Next time we'll finish this compare. And once we get the compare correct, then all we have to do is check, you know, if there is a difference, overwrite the profile README with the whole new profile and the section and everything and commit that up. And then all you'd have to do is come into your action. Let me just come back to one of these. If you ever wanted to change your top 8, change the order, whatever, you come in here and it would be defined in here. So you have this action and all you'd really give it is your users list, and you would just list all 8 here. And this file is in source control. You see here's a history of commits. You'd be able to keep track of when you changed who and whatnot. So I think that's a good way. I don't want to complicate it by having you have to create another text file. You just keep it right in the action. Just provide them right here. And then that cleans up your repository. It's one workflow YAML file that invokes my action, which is what we're creating. But the person using the action, this is what their workflow YAML file would look like. And so they would just have to make this one file and not a couple. So, okay, I think we're going to end this here. We've made some progress. Didn't really look like much, but we've got our YAML file, my action created. next time we'll figure out how this compare object, get this to work correctly. And once we're comparing correctly, then we can decide, do I need to make a commit? Has nothing changed? I can just, the action can just quit cleanly. So thanks for tuning in. Again, if you have any questions during, like the alt click, that's a VS Code thing. If you have any PowerShell questions while I'm doing this, the whole reason I'm doing this is so that I can learn some more, but also to teach any of the nerds that are watching. If you have any PowerShell questions, any questions at all, go ahead and just, there's a chat. You can go ahead and type in there. I post these to YouTube when I'm done, these videos. So they're archived there permanently after this. So follow me on Twitch. You get notified when I go live. Follow me on YouTube. You can watch them later if you can't watch them live. Yeah, and that's it. Thanks for tuning in, all my nerds. And we will have some fun next time. But I need to end this here. Thank you so much. And have a good rest of your day. Thanks.